Hello, everyone. It's your girl, Gabrielle. Welcome to a brand new episode of Hot Topics. So, we have been doing this show for a while now. If you have no idea what this show is about, I'm surprised at this point because we're already past 75 episodes, which is a great feat for us. We've been doing this for a while now, but there's always new people who come to the table, and I should be, not should be, I am a gracious host. So let me tell you what we're about. So this is the web series where we like to talk about things that are steamy. We like to take topics that are not really talked about, and we like to put it all out in the open, right? We like to open up our closets and let all the clothes fall out, So this is the show where we do that, and we do pick. We tend to focus on certain topics, so we tend to focus on topics uh, in about like families, about health, about education. We've done shows about being a child of divorce. What does it mean to be a man? We've done a whole bunch of episodes about disabilities, about deafness, about ADHD. We just did an episode about the virtual assistant industry. So we definitely have a wide scope, um, and we like to cover a lot of ground. Oh yes, and we had our um, our virtual book reading, right? So definitely check that out when you get a chance. So I got to clear my throat because I've done a lot of talking today. Sorry about that. Let me tell you what this episode is about. I just talked about ADHD. I referenced it earlier, and we're going to discuss that today. So, the name of this episode is Living with a Disability Part 10. So obviously there's a parts 1 through 9, right? So I encourage you to check out those earlier episodes. So it is in our video library. So wherever you are watching this episode right now, whatever platform it is, check out our other episodes. You will see this. So we have talked a lot about disabilities, about deafness, ADHD, and today is no different. So we have another discussion about ADHD, and I have a guest who is going to help me with this discussion. So I do like to point out that we like to repeat topics here at Hot Topics because we believe that there is multiple ways to see one thing. So we definitely like to repeat topics here. And my guest is going to sit on the hot seat and she's going to take the fire. And I can't wait to tell you about her. So let me tell you who she is. So her name is Kara Laws. I hope I'm saying her name right, Kara Laws. And I can't wait to get her on the hot seat and put her on camera. So I can't wait for you to get to know who she is. So let's get right to it. Who is Kara Laws? Let me tell you who she is. Let me tell you who she is. So, Kara Laws is an entrepreneur, public speaker, and business educator. In her spare time, Kara talks about ADHD on her page, Kara Writes Stuff, which we'll reference later. She discusses how ADHD has affected her in her life, the benefits of ADHD, and the skills needed to leverage it. Kara offers tips and tricks to help parents with ADHD children understand what is happening and how to support their fun and quirky kids. Kara is the mother of three rowdy boys. She has no filter, so she is happy to share her wins, failures, and embarrassing moments with the world so we can all learn something together. That is dope. All right, without further ado, I'm gonna bring Kara or Kara. I gotta ask how to pronounce her name. I'm gonna bring her on camera right now. Hi.
Hey,
How do you pronounce your name? I'm sorry.
Kara.
Kara.
I mean, if you
Ah,
said Kara, I would still know you were talking to me, so it doesn't really matter.
Kara. Okay.
Supergirl
Uh,
kind of screwed all the Karas up because they do pronounce her name Kara. It's fine.
Kara. As an apple.
There you go.
Okay. All right. So, Kara, welcome to Hot Topics. Your bio says pretty much you're an open book. So you can talk about your wins, your failures, your struggles. So let's get right to it.
Cool.
I would love for you to tell your life story about living with ADHD, and let's talk about that. Let's talk about your wins, your struggles, failures, all that. So I'm going to pass over the baton to you, and I'm going to let you tell your story.
You want to hear my story as in like how I was diagnosed with ADHD? Like how tell me where to start. If you just tell me to go, I will talk forever.
All right, so we need a starting point. Okay,
Yeah.
so let's start. Where should we start? So let's start with um, well, you are officially diagnosed
Mhm.
with ADHD by a doctor and all that. Okay, so let's talk about that.
It's an
What?
interesting story, so I can tell you how I got diagnosed.
All right, let's do it. Go
Let's
ahead.
start there. I can, I can, and it's been proven, talk for 10 hours straight. So it's okay to be like, hang on, we need you to come back. All of those things. Let's just preface that there. I was diagnosed when I was probably about 28. I don't remember my exact age because it doesn't really matter. And I had a friend that I was doing business courses with, and we were doing like a mastermind. She's a psychologist, psychiatrist, whatever one can write prescriptions. I don't know the difference. That's what she is. And we've gotten to know each other relatively well. We're doing a mastermind. My problem is like, guys, I don't sleep. I don't know how to stay on task with this. And I start telling them, asking them for like time management help and these types of things. And she usually has lots of good feedback. And this time she just like sat in her little corner and she was like just writing like crazy. And she didn't really say anything to me. And I was like, okay, thank you. And as I'm leaving, she like chases me down and she grabs me and she grabs my husband, which is funny. She grabs my husband and she goes, "Do you know you have ADHD?" And I was like, "Oh, that's super funny." My brother, who was diagnosed when he was a kid, I was like, "Yeah, my brother and I joke about that all the time. Haha, you're super funny." And she said, "No, your problems are ADHD problems. These people cannot help you." And she takes her paper and it's like one whole side is like therapies that you can do at home, daily therapies for ADHD, and the other side is medication. And she gave it to me and said, "You have to go talk to a therapist. You need to go talk to your doctor because we don't live near each other." And she's like, "You have a problem. I can help you." And I kind of laughed it off. I did a lot of her therapies for like a year or two. And then I started seeing a therapist. And she was like, "Yes, I thought you already knew you had ADHD." And then I went to a doctor and he also confirmed it. So it's actually been um, mildly diagnosed like 3 times. It's just something I've always dealt with in my life. I didn't know I was weird. I mean, I knew I was weird. I didn't know why I was weird.
All right, so let's talk about that. You said the word weird. How do you mean by weird?
Oh, I don't think like other people at all. I don't. I like to see how things play out. I make quick decisions. I've always had an issue with authority. I just don't think like other people. Uh, if I was in a social situation, you'd understand all of those things. Just stuff like that. I don't know. Like, I don't think of weird as a bad thing. Some people are kind of triggered by weird. Weird is good for me, so it's fine. I'm not like other people. I don't think the same ways they do. Um, I make quick decisions and I just do things, which is insane for others. Not for everyone, but there are some people that are like, "Are you kidding me? What is happening here?" That kind of thing.
Like what? Can you give an example?
Of things that I would just do? Yes, I
Yes.
can give you an example. 3 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, I was like, I live in a little teeny tiny town. We have grocery store, we have stoplight, um, and our grocery prices are pretty crazy. We pay almost $5 a gallon for milk often. And I was at the grocery store and I was like, dude, I'm done with this. And so I went home and I started a business. And now I order bulk foods from the trucks that go to the grocery store. They deliver to my house instead. And I did that in a day because I wanted to.
So what was weird about that? I think I'm missing it.
I just don't know. Maybe that's not weird. Um, I personally don't know people who will just uh, make a decision that same day and create something that big out of it. I have like 30 people that order directly from my trucks and then they just deliver to my house that we created, that I really just created in the afternoon. This bothers me. I'm doing something right now, and a lot of people just continue to, this bothers me, but I don't know what to do, or that's hard, or here's all the steps and stuff like that. And I just do. A lot of times it gets me in trouble, but this is a fun one for me. Do most people do stuff like this? Am I not weird at all? That's okay too.
You know what? That's I can't speak to that, but so let's so you said you placed 30 orders and that's 30 different trucks that came to your house?
No, it's one giant truck that comes from my house. So it's like, the food trucks that back up to the back of the grocery store or Walmart?
Yeah.
He backs up to my house. Right? And I
Oh,
have
okay.
30 families that they place their orders. We created like a really cool system for them to place their orders. And then we're basically bulk shopping together to be able to get our supplies. And then he brings the entire giant flats of orders to my house and it's sorted there and then delivered.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I can see that as
So it's not like ordering from Amazon. No, that's what we're doing. There's a whole entire business, and the trucks that deliver to your grocery stores, to your big businesses, deliver directly to my house. Which, like, there's a lot of legal work that has to be done and stuff to make that possible, but we just did it.
okay. Okay, I can see that.
Yeah.
So you said that three different people mildly diagnosed you. So um what were things that they saw that made them give you that diagnosis?
So for the girl who diagnosed me first, which is the most, that's kind of in passing you to go see someone that can't really, I don't think that really counts as an official diagnosis. She just went through all the things that I said. She said, I thought you already knew. Because to her it was super obvious. So I'm assuming that's the speed of which I talk, the way that I don't hold still, the way that I interrupt people, the fact that my thoughts jump everywhere, all of the things. Like even when I'm talking, I interrupt myself because I had a new thought, right? All of those things. She thought I already knew. So there was that stuff. But then when I started going through my problems, I don't sleep. I have a really hard time calming my brain at night. I don't know how to just get tasks done. I don't know how to organize it. If I have a to-do list, that's not super helpful to me. I have to do it differently. All of those things that I was talking about, she was like, oh, she doesn't know. For my therapist, a lot of that was emotional stuff. I have really extreme lows when I'm pregnant. Hormones, in case you didn't know, because it was new to me, hormones and ADHD do not mix well together, which is why ADHD usually gets worse during puberty. It also you tend to have more issues with ADHD when you are in certain parts of your period, like certain parts of your cycle. Yeah, so for her, it was a lot of that. Again, the sleeping issue has always been a big one for me. Probably, again, the fact that I don't hold still very well, the speed in which I speak, all of the things.
So when you say you don't hold still very well, what do you mean when you don't hold still very well?
So even, look, I'm showing you now, even while I'm sitting here with you, this is what I've been doing the whole time. It's just down here, is I'm playing with everything on my desk and touching things. It's the only way that I can, not the only way, it helps me focus. It helps me remember what I'm supposed to be doing. I work with a lot of clients sitting at my desk, and I literally, if you can see my whole desk, it is covered in things that I can do while I listen so that I can listen more actively. So I'm always doing something, usually with my hands, or I'm fidgeting, or I switch places a lot, or I stand up. I move all the time. Not as much as a lot of people, not as much as especially like younger kids. I've kind of trained myself, accidentally trained myself to channel it through my hands.
Hmm.
Like, this is what's happening that you can't see constantly.
All right, so you're constant you're constantly playing with like your pen, the paintbrush, the pencil.
All the things.
So if I were to say, stop playing with those things, don't move your hands, how would you feel?
Um, it makes me feel a little trapped, but I could do it. I usually will sit on my hands if people need me to hold still. At least as a kid, I did. I haven't done it in years, but yeah, that's exactly what I would do. Is I would sit on my hands to hold still, and then eventually, subconsciously, my legs start moving, my feet start moving. But if I have to hold still, that's what I would do.
Mm. So something is always fidgeting somewhere.
Yeah, typically, especially if I'm excited. If I'm really excited, it's worse. If I'm anxious, it's worse. Anything like that. It's like it has to leave my body.
So that leads me to ask, how are you in school?
I actually did really well in school. That's not un uncommon in girls with ADHD. I did pretty well in school. Well, let me back up. My grades were good, but I was in trouble a lot. So, like, you tell me what that looks like, if that counts as good in school or not.
Well, when you say trouble, like what? How were you disciplined?
I spent a lot of time in lunch detention. I mean, not as much as some kids. Like, some kids were in lunch detention because like they were failing classes and stuff like that, and they were just always in lunch detention. But lunch detention was super familiar to me. Some of that was because I would just decide I didn't want to go to class that day, but I had good grades. So why? See, I still have issues with authority and conformity. I don't know why I have to go to class if I have an A. And people with ADD have a really hard time doing things that don't make sense. Like, if there is no specific outcome for this that benefits me or benefits my goals, yeah, I don't understand why. I don't understand why I would do that. So I didn't go to class for a lot of those things. When I was in second grade, and I remember this very vividly, we had our seats were in four, right? The desks were all facing each other to make one big table. There were four of us, and my teacher had these little jars, and kind of like just jars, but they were clear. And she would put these little square cubes in them if you were being good. So when your table was being good, or she needed us to be quiet, she'd go start putting her cubes in, and everyone would wait and notice. And the kids that were the quietest, would get the most cubes, and she'd keep filling up everyone else's stuff until everyone was quiet. No matter what table she put me at, our table always had the lowest jar because I was always talking, because I was always moving, because I was always playing with something. I did well in class. I was just in trouble like that way a lot. I had a lot of a lot of teachers telling me to be quiet all of the time, and you need to sit at the front of the room, which doesn't help me focus, but of course that's where they put me. Missed recesses, again, lunch detention. At one point in time, my dad was like paying the principal every time he caught me not in class. That was fun. Just those types of things.
Wait, your dad was paying the principal to do what?
To catch me not in class. Every time he caught me sloughing, because I was good at not, well, we call it sloughing in Utah, so skipping class. Every time he caught me skipping class, my dad would like give him a gift card for pizza or something.
So your dad rewarded the principal for
For
doing his
catching me.
job?
Yep. He was like, make sure you pay special attention to Kara because I know she's not going to class. And I had like 106, 90, 87. I had 87 absences my junior year of high school within the first semester, which I'm told is a lot. But again, I'm getting A's, so why does anybody care? But yeah, so those types of things. I was in trouble a lot. I had a lot of like church leaders lecturing me all the time. I'm very familiar with all of my vice principals and principals from all of the schools I've attended.
So were you the troubled kid?
I wasn't the troubled kid. I was to them, okay, so I wasn't a troubled kid because like I wasn't doing drugs, I wasn't drinking, I wasn't failing classes. So I didn't really fit in the troubled kid space. So they didn't really know how to handle me. But then I was like the kid that causes problems. And so since I'm getting good grades and I'm still kinking their life, they're like, oh, she's intentionally causing issues for everybody else. So
So yeah, so the teacher or the church leaders talked about you a lot.
yeah, yeah. I was a topic of conversation, yes. Which, is fine with me now. It's kind of a funny story to me now, but it was hard. It was harder growing up with it.
How was it harder?
So like in my church, they have lots of like youth callings, volunteer opportunities, things like that. And I was very much told that I wasn't predictable enough to participate in things like that. You cause too many problems. You are a cog in the system, things like that. So just knowing that you're kind of like let's do it this way then. None of my friends' parents liked me, except for one friend. Her name was Anita, and her parents loved me because they're good souls. All of my other friends, and I had a lot of friends, their parents were very active and vocal about how much they didn't like me and how I was a bad influence. And so that kind of makes it hard when like you don't feel like you're welcome at your friend's house or they can't come hang out with you because somehow you're a bad influence again. My bad influenceness is like we toilet paper the car. It's not like we're drinking or doing drugs or doing anything terrible as teenagers. We just did stuff. You know what I mean?
You were like, what do I want to say? Like rebelling against authority, and the other kids were following you.
That's how they saw it. I'm not really I was rarely the person who came up with the ideas, but I was always the person who was like, I don't know, let's try it and see. So they'd be like, I wonder what would happen if we filled, uh, so like my boyfriend's car full of confetti. And I was like, they're talking about it as like a whimsical thing. And I say, I don't know, let's try it and see. And so then we do it. And then everyone's like, what the heck happened here? And my name's always part of it because my mom says I'm a pusher. So I'm the one who's like, it was an idea. And I'm like, do it. Let's see what happens. Because I do like to see how things happen.
Hmm. So I'm wondering, can you tell the difference between be, between fantasy and reality in terms of that example that you just gave? Like, are you able to pick up when someone's joking or they're not being serious? Are you able to pick up like things like sarcasm, things like that? Do you
I
have difficulty telling the difference between being literal and being figurative?
So I can tell the difference between like sarcasm and stuff. I do have a very hard time understanding dreaming about something and not acting on it. Like that seems very weird to me. So if you're like, oh, I want to start a business and I want to create this big, huge thing and I want to do all these things, I'm like, let's do it. And then people are like, no, I don't know. That's not what I meant. Like, I just want to talk about it. And that seems crazy to me. So that doesn't really make a ton of sense to me. So like another example, I owned an Airbnb with my mom and my sister, and they were like, I think it's time to sell. And I was like, awesome, let's sell it. And they were like, yeah, I think we probably should be talking about selling. And to me, that meant let's sell the place. And so I photographed it and listed it and had viewings within like the next day, people walking through, and they were like, hang on, you totally steamrolled us. We weren't like ready to sell it today. We were talking about it. And that doesn't make sense. That doesn't really make sense to me. Like my brain doesn't understand. I don't understand talking about things and not doing things. It seems like a waste of time. It
So
makes
when
me
people
anxious.
say, I hear that. So when people say something like, if they want to um, go to the grocery store, some people would just say, you know what, I want to go to the grocery store, and you would just say, all right, let's do it. And the other person may say, I don't actually want to go. Like, I'm just talking about going. I don't actually want to go. So is it something like that?
Yes. Yes.
So you have a hard time understanding when people just talk just to talk, they don't actually want to do it.
Yes. So like when people complain about politics and stuff, it comes back to that too, is I wish we had someone better running for county commission. And I'm like, do it. You could do great at it. Let's find somebody. And they're like, ooh, no, we were just discussing it. And I'm like, oh, that's so much anxiety. But that's fine.
So do you find yourself doing too many things?
Yes. Would you like to see how okay,
Sure.
let's learn my life. This is my board. I do too many things, enough so that my life coach and I came up with this list. It's not very pretty because I haven't redone it yet in a long time. But these are the questions that I am supposed to. I don't always do it because, again, sometimes I've already made the decision before I've thought that I need to think about the decision. I just already made it, and now I have another business, and trucks are delivering giant semis are delivering food to my house, right? So like it's just a list of questions like, did someone actually ask you to do this? What is your goal? Does this actually need to be taken care of? Is this your job? How does this benefit your life? Etc. Because yes, I very much have a problem with doing all of the things and not being able to fit all of the things into my life. That's my
So it's so you have that list to help you organize all that you have to do.
well, no, the list is supposed to help me make choices on if I should start a new project.
Oh,
So
okay.
ideally, because when you have ADHD, you have that impulsivity. So a lot of things don't actually make it to your prefrontal cortex because you've already done it. So like with a kid who has ADHD, and let's say, okay, well, we kind of assume that people who are impulsive, it kind of goes like this. So there's a candle. Let's pretend there's a candle on the table, and I have a piece of paper, and I'm a little kid, and I look at the candle and my piece of paper, and I'm like, ooh, my mom's gone right now. So I am gonna light this little piece of paper on fire, and I can totally get away with it because she's not here, and it'll be cool. Like that's what most people think the impulsivity is, but it's different because that went through your prefrontal cortex. That gave you a chance to think. It's different. It's more like I saw a candle and there's a flame, and I have a piece of paper in my hand, and I light it on fire, and then I'm like, oh crap, that was a really really bad idea. There wasn't a thought. It was just like, huh, and now my paper's on fire. So the idea of my questions are to give my thoughts time in my prefrontal cortex so I can say, hang on, I know that you really would like food trucks, giant food trucks to deliver thousands of dollars worth of food to your house every Tuesday, but is this something you should be doing? And then I go through all the questions and I kind of have to either talk myself out of it or realize that it is actually something I should be doing right now. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, I mean, you say you do that for your business though, right?
I do it for my business. I do it in life. I should be doing it more, but sometimes I forget it exists and I've already moved on.
I guess a part of me is wondering if it is for your business, is it really something extravagant?
So in my business, it's not for like every decision I make. Like I didn't do it before I met with you. But if I'm trying to pick up a new project, it is supposed like that's my goal is every time I decide to pick up a big new project, that's what I want to go through is those 7 questions. Does that make sense? Sometimes I talk a lot, but people are so lost.
I am kind of lost. Sorry.
That's
Uh,
fair.
so, so, um, so is it like I'm trying to figure it out.
I'll show you the questions.
Okay.
It'll help. It'll help. Okay. So you can see how many times I've torn it off of there. So like the questions are, so let's say, okay, we'll do a business one. Let's say I'm like, hey, I'm gonna write a new book. I'm going to write another book. Like I'm already writing a book. I want to write another book. And my life coach and also my husband will be like, did you go through your questions before you take on this new project? And I'm like, so then I have to ask the questions and I'm like, okay, I'm going to write a new book. Did someone ask me to do this? The answer is no. No one asked me to write a new book. I would just like to write a new book because I'm bored with the one I'm currently writing. That's all true. And then the next question is like, what is your goal with this? And I'm like, okay, I'm currently writing a book. And my goal with that is to help my membership program. So if I'm writing a second book, I don't know what the goal is. And that's like a red flag, right? So I would like lose a point for that one, essentially. And then I can go to the next one that I'm like, what are my expectations with this book? And I'm like, oh, I don't know. I just felt like I should write a new book. And as I go through them all, and then like, does this add value to my life or to a relationship? And I'm like, no, kind of, because then I won't be bored writing my other book. But I'm just continually losing points. And then I'm like, hey, this is an impulsivity ADD want. This isn't an actual move my life or my business forward. And there's like 7 of them, but we don't have to go through them all. Does that make more sense?
Okay, I get it now. So whenever you say, "Oh, I want to do this," you stop yourself. Let me ask myself these 7 questions, and if I determine that this thing that I want to do doesn't really add value or it's not something that needs to be done immediately, then you know not to do it.
Yes. And then, do you see this right here? You're getting so into my brain.
Yeah.
Okay. This is a board that is stuck to my wall. It doesn't come off. I have screwed it there because there are 1,000 things that I would like to do. So if I go through my questions and I'm like, this is not something that is the best use of my time right now, nor do I have time for it. That's literally one of the questions. Where does this fit into your schedule? And I'm like, oh, it doesn't. Then I can write it on my board. Now I used to keep track of things in a notebook, but where's my notebook? Nobody knows because I've lost it again. And the 7 others I had before that. So this one's secured to my wall where I can write all of those things and then I can let it go. So my ADD is like, I want to write a new book. I want to write this book because it's fun. It's going to be more fun than the one that you're writing. And so it's hard to let go of because I'm going to forget. And even if it's like subconsciously, I'm still like, I can't let go because I won't come back. And so I made a board that is stuck to my wall so I can't lose it. And all of my ideas and those thoughts go here. So I can't forget. And then I can let go. Do I sound crazy yet?
You're getting there. Does that help? So, I mean, does the board help you?
Yeah, the board helps me because I know that it's there. Like, I know that the stuff is there and I know it's not going to get lost. And so I can more easily set those thoughts aside. Like sometimes, and it's kind of a subconscious piece. A lot of ADHD people just cycle and cycle and cycle and cycle thoughts. A huge part of it is if we stop thinking about it, I won't ever remember it happened. Like I won't ever remember that I wanted to do that thing. And so I can't stop thinking about it until I do the thing. And so if I can put it somewhere where I know it won't get lost, I can more easily stop cycling it.
So, for something like I want to write a book, do you put that on the board?
Yeah, so it'll say, I want to write a book about, and then I would put that on the board. And then I can be like, okay, I will get to that. And then when I'm like, I'm bored and I'm out of things to do, I have a whole list behind me.
So, when you're bored, then that's when when you're bored, you turn to the board.
Yeah, yeah, you're getting it. I sound crazy, but it makes sense in my head.
So, now how many things are on the board at one time?
I haven't filled it up yet. It's relatively new. So right now there's just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's just 5 on here right now, which isn't too bad. I did when I put this up, I deleted an entire spreadsheet and threw a lot of notebooks away that I was like, this is 5 years of stuff that I don't even remember what it is, so it's okay to let it go. And it was like a really emotional moment, but I've replaced it with my board. And so it's okay. I pretty much will be okay with it being clear full because it's just ideas that I don't want to forget.
So, now how long do the ideas stay on the board before you carry it through?
Probably forever. No. Some of them, let's see. I've done one of them. I just haven't crossed it off because okay, let's be honest. It needs water to be wiped off because it's not chalk. It's like a chalk marker. And I keep thinking that it's too hard to go get a paper towel. So I haven't wiped it off yet. I could cross it off. I haven't thought of that. So like, it's not necessarily even like things I have to do. Maybe one day I'll do them. And maybe a lot of times I come back to things that used to be there. And I'm like, I don't even want to do that anymore because it was a whim. It was an ADHD whim. I don't really need to do it. It's just how I get it out of my head.
So you are aware that you have ADHD whims.
Oh yeah, yeah. Which is where the board came from and the questions. Is I get myself in all kinds of sticky situations. I still do sometimes, but it's getting better. All kinds of sticky situations because I inserted myself into a situation because I wanted to do it right then because it was new and shiny, or I felt like it was really important, or I was bored, or any of those things. And then I'm like, oh, remember that time I did that thing? And so this is to help. The two systems together are to help prevent some of that or reduce it.
So after you have these whims, right? How do you feel after that? Do you feel satisfied? Do you feel regretful? How do you feel?
Okay, so okay, maybe you don't know. Lately, I keep telling people like, when, and they all keep looking at me like, no, that's not a thing. So let's find out together. But I'm assuming you know. So like, when you go to clean your kitchen and you're like, no, I need to like overhaul my entire kitchen. And so you take every single thing out of the cupboard and everything's on the counter and everything's on the floor and everything's a mess. And then you're like, oh crap, I don't want to put it back. That is typically how those whims feel, is like, I get like 50% of the way done. And then I'm like, oh crap, I didn't really want to finish this. And now what? Not always. Sometimes they're good. Sometimes they're things I care enough about to follow all the way through. But often they turn into, now I'm in the situation and now I have to put everything back in the cupboards and I don't want to.
And you're dragging your feet, right?
Yeah. And then people are like depending on me for some stuff, or I've made a huge mess of things or stuff like that. So that's how it gets me into trouble, is I put myself in a situation that I didn't actually have enough passion about to follow through with. It just felt important at the moment because it was the fastest, brightest car in my head.
So how often do you have these whims? If you can put a number on it, how many a day?
At least one.
All right, it's not
The
so
one,
bad.
yeah, at least one that's like a big thing, right? Like, I'm trying to think of something that would make sense to you because I don't know, I have at least one thing that would be like a big thing. Like, I want to write a book. I want to start a new business. I want to repaint this entire room. Like, none of them are little. Oh, I want to plant a garden. That is one that did make it off my board. I want to plant a garden. I have to clean up my closet for that. I'm building a garage because one day I was like, I want to build a garage. So it's not like little things. They're like big ones.
Big ones, big ones. Okay. So something very like grandiose.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So whenever you have that thought, that's where, wait, let me ask myself the 7 questions. That's where you
Yeah.
stop yourself.
Yeah. Or I'll be like, I want to have another kid. Luckily, that takes 2 people. So that one's been curved pretty well. I don't really want another kid. But some days I think that I do. So that one's okay.
Oh, so I want to make sure we get to this point. You mentioned medication. You said that you made a personal decision to not get on medication. Can you talk about that more?
Correct. So I was on medication once when I was 18 or 19, and it actually wasn't for ADHD. It was a medication for like extreme mood swings, which is a very common symptom of ADHD because when you have ADHD, you don't actually know. Okay, I imagine in a neurotypical person's head, you kind of feel that you start to get angry and then you get angrier and angrier and angrier and angrier, and you start to be like, I have to leave the situation, or I'm going to yell at people, or I'm going to scream or do something I would regret. Does that sound true?
Yes, yes, that does.
Okay, okay. So in in a brain that doesn't have ADHD, that has ADHD. So if you're neurodiverse and you have ADHD, you usually miss the buildup. Like you're distracted, you're doing other things. I'm focusing on this, and so you miss the buildup, and you're fine, and you're fine, and you're fine, and then you're screaming at everyone, and you're freaking out, and you're super pissed, and your whole life is over. And there's a lot of mindfulness practice that you can learn to like realize that you're getting there. There's not a buildup for a lot of us, right? So I was 18. Excuse me, I was 18. I've been doing this for years, where I'm like, I'm okay, and then I'm not okay, and then I'm okay, and then I'm not okay. And so my mom put me on a drug to help with like the extreme mood changes, the mood swings. And it was really nice. I was on it for like a year and a half, and it was really nice because I finally realized that I could make a choice. I could not freak out. Like I had like almost an out of body experience with it, where my sister was making me freaking crazy. And I was like, oh, I don't have to freak out right now. It literally, I never knew that until that moment. Which sounds, again, weird. But yeah, so I did that for a while, and it was really nice. When I got married, we couldn't afford the medication anymore, so I went off of it. And since then, I've just chosen, well, first of all, I didn't know I had ADHD until I was like 28. But as I was talking to my therapist, as I was talking to my doctor, and talking to my husband about options and things that we can do, I realized that a lot of the things that make me successful in my business and make me a good business coach, because that's my actual job, that's what I do. As a business advisor and stuff, the things that make me good at it are ADHD things. And I don't want to squash those things. I don't want to get rid of them. They're part of the things that make me who I am and make me really good at the things that I do. So we talked about it, and there's a lot of like daily therapies, like even my dumb little questions and my board and things like that. There's a lot of daily things that I can be doing to manage it and leverage my ADHD instead of taking the medication to kind of dampen it. And so, yeah, that's kind of like a really long story to answer your question. But yeah, that's kind of the thought process that led us to where we are. Is by then I'd gone through it a lot. I'd already lived with it for a long time. And I decided I wanted to try to use it for good instead.
Like a superpower.
Yeah.
All right. I also want to make sure we get to this part. You mentioned you talked about your daily therapies. You said you use a timer, art therapy, yoga, and meditation. Can you talk about those?
I sure can. So the art therapy, look, it was out before you came. I'll show you some of them. They're fun. So this is stuff that I do with like my life coach. Her business is called Feels Like Joy, and she helps people with this stuff. Let me find some that are useful to you. And so I do a lot of like drawing it out. So this one talks about how I avoid my emotions. There we go. And all of the different things in there, like the things that I'm actually doing instead of admitting that I have a problem and working on fixing it, things like that. So I do a lot of art therapy like that. I do just some general painting, but mostly art therapy stuff that I do is this stuff where I'm drawing it out so I can kind of see it from a different view and what things look like. Like this one's about, I'll share my life with you. This one's about, there's like brick walls in our lives. So I just keep doing the exact same things over and over and over again. And what if there was a better way to try things? What? And so we talked about that and made some decisions and some choices of things that I can do differently to help make those better, etc. So that's the art therapy. I do that a lot with my son who has ADHD. He's really, it's working really, really well for him. That it's just super calming for him, and he probably draws a new picture or 4 every day. When I read at night, he's just drawing and drawing and drawing because it helps him a lot. So that's the art therapy. Yoga, I have a mat in my office, and I just do that whenever I have breaks between meetings and stuff. It helps my body feel better. It helps my brain feel better. It gives me a chance to calm my mind a little bit. Meditation, I don't do it as often as I should. But even an ADHD brain is capable of learning. So when you're sitting and you're doing meditation, you are redirecting yourself over and over and over again to focus. Um, I started really slow. There's apps that give you like 1 minute of meditation. I use the Calm app a lot, and then 5 minutes of meditation, and it builds. And so, like, you start with one until it's pretty easy to redirect your thoughts, and then you go on to five, and it helps you lower your boiling point. Which, again, if you're not tracking, if you're not consciously aware of how your emotions are tracking, it's really easy to just flip the switch in your screen at people. So the meditation helps you lower your boiling point. It also helps you train your brain to learn how to focus for a little bit longer and longer periods of time, which is all super great. It's good for you in a ton of ways. I have no idea what the other ones you said were. Timers.
Yeah.
The timer one was from the woman who first suggested I had ADHD. And she's like, you start it, and my timer is on my other desk. I do have two desks because that one's for art, even though, my stuff's over here. So clearly I'm doing well. Anyway, so, and it's the same general thing. And I've used it with my kid, but I've used it with me mostly. And it's the same thing. It's like if you did it with a kid, it would be, you set a timer for a minute, and then we're focusing on math, we're focusing on math, we're focusing on this thing. And then when it goes off, you tell them they're wonderful and they did a great job, all the dopamine, give them all the dopamine feedback so they feel good. And you just keep doing it at 1 minute, similar to the meditation, at 1 minute until they're good at focusing for a minute. And then you do 2 minutes. Same exact thing. It's always a reward. We're always working on it. All the way up to about 20. More than 20 minutes is really pretty unreasonable. It's kind of an unreasonable expectation, especially for a kid. But most people, I understand, I've been told that even like neurotypical people, they really have like an attention span of about 20 to 30 minutes. And then typically people need a break there. So to push someone with ADHD beyond what people that are neurotypical are doing is kind of an unrealistic expectation. But I also have the power of hyperfocus. So if I can turn on my hyperfocus, which really kicks in after about 10 minutes, then it can be great. So the timer helps me learn how to focus, but then I also, when it's something I can get super focused into, I also set it for an hour so that I can pull myself out of that hyper-focused state and I don't lose an entire day to whatever I decided was important that day.
Good for you. Yes, good for you. Good for you. All right, so we are starting to wind down. So do you have any words of advice that you'd like to share? Any final words of wisdom? Maybe it's something that you wish somebody told you in the beginning, or if there was things that you wish you knew earlier on, or any advice, wisdom that you would like to share with our audience.
I think my advice, wisdom, goes out to parents that are dealing with kids that have children with ADHD, and maybe this extends to people that just currently have ADHD as well, but mostly it's to parents. And the biggest thing is that your kid is trying so freaking hard. They are trying so hard, but they're lacking the tools to know how to manage what they have. So it's not about be different, be better, stop doing this. It's in ADHD at all, it's about finding the tools to leverage what you have instead of trying to force yourself to just be a different person. So instead of trying to force a kid to be different, it should be about giving them the tools because they honestly don't know. Their brain doesn't work the way you want it to. They honestly don't know how to stop and think something through. They don't know how to focus better. They don't know how to sit still. So you need to be teaching them the tools instead of just hoping that they're different and changing who they are.
All right. Wonderful advice, Kara. All right. All right, Kara, thank you so much for this lovely interview. It was definitely very interactive and getting to see into your life. All right, so let me put up your banner here. All right, so you guys, you can find Kara on social media. She is on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. It is all one handle, so that is easy for you to remember. So definitely go to all of those social media accounts and follow her. Give her your support. If there's any questions that you want to ask her, any comments, maybe you want to tell her, hey, you're not crazy, you're not weird, or I do the same things, or whatever it is, definitely reach out to her. Her contact information is scrolling below at the bottom of your screen. Kara, can you talk about your business a little bit?
So with the Kara Wright stuff, it's a little chaotic. This is my life. This is my weird bits about ADHD, things about anger. Emotional management is a huge problem for people who have ADHD. So I talk about that a lot. I am working on a book with this. It's going to be a while out. So mostly I'm just here to help. I'm here to help with this one. This isn't the one that provides for my family. So mostly I'm just here to help.
There you go, right? So she just wants to help you guys out. So if you guys need that help, if you need a one-on-one consultation, or whatever it is that you need, or you need resources or whatever it is, definitely reach out to Kara. Again, her social media is scrolling below at the bottom of your screen. So please reach out to her if you need anything. All right, so Kara, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you.
All right. All right, so I'm gonna put you off camera right now. All right, and you guys, it is just you and me. I'm gonna put up my banner right now. And we have reached the conclusion of our episode. Thank you so much for joining us today. Wherever you are watching this episode right now, whether that is Facebook, Twitter, what else? YouTube, maybe Instagram. Please check out our social media for more videos and clips. And don't forget to follow us. And while you're at it, let us know what you thought about this episode by leaving a comment in the comment section below or in the comment thread. I, Gabrielle, would love to hear your thoughts. And as a reminder, this web series is a production of A Step Ahead Tutoring Services. So if you would like to learn more about our company, the services, workshops, the things that we have to offer, if you're looking for tutoring for your children or for yourself, please reach out to us. Our contact information is scrolling below at the bottom of your screen. But I also will say our website. Our website is www.astepaheadtutoringservices.com. And I also want to point out that we have an email list and a texting list. And I encourage you to sign up for both of those things to stay in touch with our promotions, our discounts, and our special events. You will hear about all those things before anybody else. So I encourage you to sign up for our email list and texting list. That information is included in the scrolling marquee below. So I encourage you to check that out. And for those of you watching this on YouTube, all of this information is provided in the description. And I want to make sure we get this final message before we leave for the day.
Hey there, have you heard of us? We're a small team of tutors here at A Step Ahead Tutoring Services. We believe that education and information should be accessible to everyone, regardless of income, race, or creed. We're dedicated to making this happen, but we need your help. Please consider making a donation to our company. No amount is too small. Your donation will allow us tutors to remain employed, offer free and low-cost services, put on productions like this web series, and reach out to families nationwide. With your help, we can tackle the academic challenges of our students and the emotional, mental, and behavioral changes that result from these challenges. As a bonus, we can improve our communities in the process. Support us today. Note: we're a for-profit company. We're not a charity. Your donation may not be tax deductible. Please consult a tax professional.
All right, you guys, that's it for our episode. Thank you so much for joining us today. I look forward to seeing you at the next episode. And now I am signing off.